Welcome to World Unity Week, everyone. I'd like to introduce my beloved sister Ingrid. She's going to introduce our hostess today.
Thank you, Shonda. Welcome everyone joining us for World Unity Week 7 as a new beginning. Today, I would love to introduce Annie Spade. She's worked directly with 2 to 6-year-olds for over 40 years in Montessori settings. Her first Montessori training was in the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, which, did I say that right, Annie?
Catechesis, yes.
Catechesis, thank you for the correction. The Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, which is a carefully researched understanding of children's spiritual hungers. Annie also serves as an admin for the Tehar de Jerhan group on Facebook. And I always say that name wrong, but I love the noosphere.
Yep.
Love the noosphere, hate the pronunciation.
That's
And
right.
as she is active with the Integral Christian Network, ICN. Through her studies at Nine Gates Mystery School and with the Deep Time Network, Annie has developed esoteric practices that nurture an expanded sense of our place in time and space. Thanks for coming, Annie. We can't wait to hear what you have to share with us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Uh, um, well, I would like to begin because this is really going to be so focused on what Reverend Dr. Joni Carley was sharing with us yesterday. Is really going to set a great context for us, speaking about our sense of our unity. And I'm just really feeling the double earthquakes in Venezuela this morning, here in Texas, where I am. It's morning. And also just the decision of the Supreme Court to deport refugees from Haiti. And looks like it can be impactful to over 1 million people, many of whom, including those who take care of my father in his assisted living facility, are from Haiti. So I just wanted us to take a moment this is World Unity Week, and to lean into our unity with our brothers and sisters around the world, and particularly those who are suffering. Thank you. And I'd just like to lift up that what we'll be doing here today. Will go into the field to alleviate suffering. And lift us all up. Well, I wanted to begin by sharing a story that was really an activation for me back in November of 2018. I traveled to Australia for Fields of Healing, which was an event to celebrate the Mungo lady return to country, the Aboriginal people. If you know Jim Bowler's story, that he experienced had experienced these remains, these ritually buried remains, 40,000 years old, had been revealed to him many decades before, and the remains of these Aboriginal ancestors were whisked off to the British Museum. And so for decades, the people were asking for return to country. And so to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of return to country, we had a Fields of Healing event in the southeastern corner of Australia. And the evening before we began, we had a ceremony with 2 of the Aboriginal elders. And it was silently done, really. And there were maybe 40 of us there. And the first thing was we each had a smudging by the first elder. And then the second elder just marked our foreheads with white ash. And then we just all gathered on the lawn there. And I just remember it just was so powerful that he stepped over in front of us and just spoke a few words. And what he said to us was that this marking on our foreheads meant that we are one family. And that just hit me so holistically, sitting there on the ground in Australia, far from my home here in Central Texas on Turtle Island, that essential sense of belonging and unity is really what we're all not just hungering for, but we know it. We know it is there for us. And the question is how we find our way back. And yesterday, Joni Carley spoke of how her sense, with all her work at the UN and all, is that this consciousness is just rising up. And I think it, as I reflected on her words, that the crisis of belonging, how we've just been experiencing more and more separation from one another, yes, but beginning with ourselves, and I'll be talking about that. Just all the different ways of separation that we've been suffering for some generations, is really pushing the envelope, if you will, and opening us up for this, as she calls it, game changer awareness. Would that not be a game-changing awareness that we would all recognize our unity in a really existential way in our lives? So that just felt to me like a beautiful segue into the child, because children are just hardwired for relationship. And so I don't want to jump the envelope too much, because I want to set that context a bit more, because I'm here on Turtle Island, in the United States, which, when we think about an infant being born here in the so-called first world, the child is not introduced very much to the natural world. And Gail Taylor and I and some others worked for a while on the sense of the child being born into a second womb. Really, when a child is born, but that really is something that we have lost connectivity to, and that's an essential loss. There's now a whole field of psychology, eco-psychology, that is recognizing that so often our issues not just go back to that, but also then they can be healed by that, by a return to country, by a return to the natural world, and a real meaningful connection to what ought to have been the second womb for us as infants, to emerge from this dark, watery, all-inclusive environment in our mother's wombs into this burst of color and sound and sensation and all. And we missed so often a really deep immersion into that. And, some of that is for health reasons, so-called, and all, but to recognize that rather than a mobile over the crib, that the infant would see the fluttering leaves, as I'm seeing outside my window right now, the birds fluttering by, the feel of the grass and leaves, sound of birds, just all of it. We could go on and on with that, and how we've been separated from all of that. So Paul Shepard is one of the eco-psychologists that I've read, and he says that despite the distortions, because ultimately that's what happens when we get so separated from our initial longings for connection, that all these distortions come in, and he has, I don't want to read to you too much. So there's a great quote that he has having to do with technology and the separation and how we get into these addictions, because we're really missing those essential connections that could have, should have started way back at the beginning of our lives. And so he says this little bit of a quote. He says that despite these distortions, there is a secret person undamaged in every person, waiting to reconnect with nature. A secret person. So who might that secret person within us be? Well, I'm going to share that one of my inspirations over the years is absolutely the writings found in the Judeo-Christian literature, which in the book of the prophet Isaiah, we have the peaceable kingdom prophecy, which goes through the lion shall lay down with the lamb, the bear will eat hay like the ox, there shall be no more harm nor ruin on all my holy mountain, and a little child shall guide them. And then Jesus, repeatedly, we find it in all the Gospels, in all the synoptic Gospels, the three, that Jesus is saying that we need to change and become like them. The contention here is that there is a child in each of us still, and how can we bring that forward? And if that's the need for us to change and become like them, how shall we accomplish this? So the first thing, and I wanted to mention too that John Westerhoff also refers to this, the religious educator John Westerhoff calls it actually early childhood as a dimension of life, not a chronological time period, but a dimension of life that becomes fully conscious later. So that's what we're going to be unpacking with this time together today. And I like to begin with something that I shared during World Unity Week 1, when I was so blessed to be invited by Trebby Johnson of Radical Joy to offer something about children in nature in her breakout room. And during that offering, I gave several passages from a little book called The Original Vision by Edward Robinson. And Edward Robinson went around to adult people of every generation from their 20s to their 80s. And somewhere I see your little notes coming up. Thank you. Edward Robinson, he wanted to collect what memories people had from early childhood about early spiritual or religious experiences. And the book is just, mine is falling apart, and it wasn't that solidly published in a way. It's one of the goals, and I said it 6 years ago, and I'll say it again. It's a goal to have that book republished. It's just such a treasure, all the different sharings that people gave to him. And I remember so beautifully that, and I'm about to offer it to you now, but so just get ready if there might be something you would share. But Trebby shared at that time how she remembered one time when she was quite young that she was outside in the evening around the time of sunset, and she had the sense that if she could stay outside until it got to be dark and just witness just be immersed in that whole experience of the planet turning and transitioning over um, to nightfall, that she would touch God. And she said, she was not allowed to do it, of course, because of whatever safety and all of that. But she remembers that real clearly, that she had that sense. And um, I, for myself, and so a lot of these accounts, people have particular memories like that. But many people are like me, where my memory is this kind of ongoing. I don't know what it was. It was just a draw, and it was in the evening that I felt this call to go and be on the front porch, and it was just a little cement stoop out in West Texas where I grew up, and just I don't remember anything of any great consequence happening there, but it was just peaceful, calming, and opportunity. As we know, young children absorb things with all of themselves, to just be quiet in nature. And I'm the oldest of 8. And in that house, there were 3 more siblings born. So we know the evening time can be a noisy time with an infant in the house. So I've wondered if that was kind of my escape in a way. Not that I was traumatized terribly by it, but just to have some quiet time at the end of the day was just something that was very nourishing for me, even as a very young child. And so just open it up, that I don't know if, well, I did experience that yesterday. So yes, I know that they can open up the mic for someone to speak, but I would love to invite anyone who would share something with us. As I say, it doesn't even have to be anything in particular, except feelings. William James, the research psychologist, he describes it as the quiet, unspectacular persistence of feelings that cannot forever be denied. I'll never forget hearing that quote many decades ago, and just never forgot it. The quiet, unspectacular persistence of feelings that cannot forever be denied. So, without further ado, open it up and see if there's anyone that would like to offer something into the field here.
Family, really quick. I'm familiar with everyone here, Annie. So we have opened the mics, Ingrid. So, Ingrid, if you'll carry that forward, I'm still sharing.
Okay. So you are able to unmute yourself to begin a question, and I will add you into the spotlight with Annie to be able to have the discussion.
And no pressure, because,
Yeah.
and it's something we don't always, I guess, see it as an invitation to see what you might remember. Oh, here we go. Summer joy.
Well, I just have been buzzing the whole time I've been with you, listening to you. And I have a video walking behind that Aboriginal man, and was with you in Australia, the Fields of
Yes,
Healing. And
you
I
were.
remember,
You
I
were
remember
indeed.
that moment very, very vividly as well. And as I'm speaking about it, the light and the clouds are parting here in my backyard, and just feeling spirit really alive here. And just how everything kind of simultaneously, synchronicity kind of moment I'm having. I'm texting with my mom to coordinate. She needs help with my nephews today because she's taking care of my 3 and 5-year-old nephews that are like my beloveds. I just adore them and will be caring for them today. But thinking about how much they inspire me, and their wisdom that shed so much light on how awake I feel I am, and then the reminder of how much more wisdom that is revealing that and connecting to that inner child in myself. That, yeah, I just wanted to, as you so beautifully are bringing us to the child, and um, and just how important it is to be open and reminded. I was in my garden the other day and I had my marigold flowers. I started from seed, and it's a really important part of the Garden of Joy. And I've been noticing that they're not really growing. Like they seem sort of stuck. And my 5-year-old nephew, Jack, who honestly, he's so wise and so deeply spiritual little being. I was like, do you have any advice? Can you help me? Like, what do you think and he's like, Summer, you need to plant your agates. You need to plant agates into the garden and then they will grow. And he was so matter of fact and so clear and so confident, and just it is what it is, Summer. And agates are a really special uh, rock that I've shared with him. It's something that, and for three generations in my family, my grandmother, my mother, my mom, we've walked on the beach, Max Bolton Beach, and finding agates. It's like this amazing rock. Actually, let me just. And when the sun hits it, it's like a light being, and it is very special when found. But anyways, I took my 5-year-old nephew's advice and I planted 4 little agates into my marigold garden. And I swear to you, they're they are growing. And it's been during World Unity Week too, which I find this is a very magical portal that we're all in together right now. But yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit of that, and that I just wish I could just reach through my screen and give you a hug, because I just think you're just such a precious being. And the experience as well of what you brought from the river, where the Mississippi Delta just a few days ago, that was a really profound experience. And Joe Brewer and Penny and you and the overheating of your phone and everything that happened, but I just really have felt like there's something about the river concept that is
Yes.
really um, is transforming me this week, about how I'm thinking about bioregional and my relationship.
Gorgeous.
I don't
Yeah.
know why, but it's almost emotional saying it, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that relationship
Yeah.
with the rivers right now. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
deep breath,
Powerful.
deep
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel you, sister. Thank you, Summer Joy. Blessings.
And we
Yeah,
have
I was
Matt also that is, I'm so
okay.
sorry to
Okay.
interrupt you.
All right.
But
Yeah, yeah.
the
Matt.
camera doesn't seem to be working for you, Matt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matt, New
Can you hear
Zealand.
me?
Wow.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
I'm not too sure about why my camera's not working. Sorry about that. My iPhone works, but I'm on the computer. Oh, it's 5 o'clock here, and I'm sort of sneaking
Oh,
out. You wouldn't see
well,
me anyway. I'm sort of
we
in the
hear
dark.
you loud and clear. So
Oh, kia
love
ora.
to hear your voice, Matt. Yeah.
Awesome, Annie. Awesome, Corded. Also, awesome speaking. I just had a question about as you were talking about the Aboriginal experience. I missed exactly where that occurred, and so I was typing to ask you, but then I saw the thing behind summer, the globe with the ping, 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 pinging, and that was why I was asking. It was a lot bringing place into those stories, and for me, I'd
Right.
missed it. Could I get where it was?
Yeah, the name is just escaping me. Summer, I've been holding
It
so
was,
much for this
it's okay. I
talk.
remember it well. It was near Byron Bay.
Byron Bay.
It
Yeah.
was about an hour or so ish from Byron Bay,
Oh,
Australia.
Beautiful.
And Magpie is the name of the Aboriginal elder that had the vision of that. And Ben Bowler really brought that through for him. And I think he has now passed. I don't know if you knew that, Annie, but
I think
yeah.
so. Yeah, I thought I heard that. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Awesome. Also, just another thing was I had just instantly sent an Australian thing to Summer, which came from her sport question. So she asked about sport. I'm an athlete, and I was a professional athlete in Australia, and I got a proposal yesterday around shifting the paradigm in sport using our old boys. We had our old boys reunion on the weekend, and yeah, everyone was in the zone about we've got to get out of our old culture, blah blah blah, and the co-opetition and all the things inside of compassion games that I saw. I logged in a couple of days ago. So I was suggesting to the people running it, hey, we've got to have a look at how we can weave in to this. Oh, there's so many things on that compassion games website that amazing, and linked into what Summer asked about the Knicks. So yeah, and
Right.
what we're
Well,
going
Matt,
through is old
yeah.
boys shifting out of a culture of competition to co-opetition. Yeah, that's me, Modiota. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. Okay, so let's just dive in a little more now to, what if this secret person that's waiting that Paul Shepard read about. And, indeed, Karl Rahner, the Jesuit theologian, even said the questions of early childhood remain throughout our lives. And when I speak about childhood, we'll fixing to dive into this, really looking at the very youngest children. Maria Montessori recognized that about every 6 years, so birth to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 18, 18 to 24, really the child goes into a new time period. But I like to share, I'm going to try sharing screen. I like to share a couple of images with you. So I'm going to go off screen and share screen is my plan. Just a minute. We go.
Well, we've got your desktop now. There we
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Nice.
There we go. So
Okay.
let's see. So this is the first one I wanted to share. So this is something that is attributed to Maria Montessori in 1951, which is the year before she passed in Amsterdam in 1952. So by 1951, this is how she's conceiving of it. And it's interesting now, just look at the bottom part. So she's looking at some different approaches to education, just kind of seeing that the child is a little nothing at the beginning, right? With Froebel and then Pestalozzi, and just growing as it goes along all the way to university. And I always have to have a shout out to Maria when I share this, because she conceived, as I say, she passed in 1952, and she had always spoken of that childhood is not complete until the age of 24. And I don't know if anyone on this call will remember, but research showed that the frontal lobe was not complete until the age of 24. And that only came out, I want to say it was this century. It was just 20, 30 years ago, maximum. I don't even think it was 30 years ago. And so, that was purely on observation. Maria was just absolutely devoted as a scientist. She was trained as a medical doctor. And so she really devoted herself to observation of young people, beginning with early childhood. So what we see here, looking now at the upper image, is she conceived of growth and development as similar to a bulb. And the bulb stage, if you will, is birth to 6. So you see the little numbers and squares above it. And so the power that's in the bulb itself is what she recognized, that sort of power in early childhood. And then 6 to 12 is this very stable time where the shoot comes out. And then we go to puberty, when we've got the bulb, the flower in a bud, if you will. And so then we have the bursting out, and this doesn't really illustrate it, which I think is really interesting. And that's why I wanted to share the next thing with you. But I think it would be more like we would see a full flower there below. So without further ado, I'd like to share one of my very favorite bulbs. This is the rain lily, and I think it illustrates this so well, because the rain lilies here in my part of the world, they appear anytime we haven't had rain for a while. It's a purely wild being that no one cultivates. It's just everywhere. And in fact, I was thinking I should have also put one up with a magical field full of rain lilies. I can well imagine that a young child could have a spiritual experience that would last throughout their lives, based on what I've read in Edward Robinson's book, being in a field of these rain lilies. So just, the sense that there's a bulb under there that is always alive. And we know about the biological reality. This flower is doing its thing, and then you want to leave the flower on. And what's amazing about this particular flower as well is that it will make a little packet of seeds, and that little packet is just packed with little they look about the size of a hole punch, if you think of a punch from punching a hole. And they're black, they're pure black, and they're the exact dimensions, very thin, little black things. So imagine the children. I had to teach them to not pick them off. And but the important point is that then the energy goes back into the bulb. And I think this is a beautiful way to I'm going to stop the share so I can go back on screen here. Let's see, I'll have to look and see how to get off, get back in. So back in that video.
Just under the Zoom screen where
Yeah.
it says video. Yeah, turn it
Okay.
back on.
Okay. I had
All
to
right,
get
yay.
Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, wonderful. So I just I love being able to reflect on that the flower does its thing, makes its seeds, but then it's feeding energy back into that bulb. And so to me, it's very evocative of how the child self continues to live and have been nurtured and been held by all of that growth and energy as an adult, or wherever we are in our process of maturity. But that bulb is always there and pregnant and something that we can access. So let me I was thinking, okay, so that we could do this in the chat would be the easiest way. If someone asks you for just to name one or two characteristics of young children, just a word or two words. How about we drop those in the chat and just curious? Here we go. Yeah. Let's just put out some Summer Joy's hanging out with them. Present. I was going to share Summer. I had this experience once of a child asking if she could playful, aligned, yes, fun. I'll tell that story in a minute. I don't want to miss any of these words. I think I missed one. Lucid. Awed by the agates. Yes, we'll be getting to awe and wonder, Dr. Tom. That's coming up. All right. Well, we definitely have some ideas of some of the characteristics. So I'm going to share. It was really hard to direct, Ingrid has. Yeah, they don't hold back, do they? It's just, that lack of filter, as they say, but it's so much about their, sweet, innocent, just letting it flow, right? Pure. Lovely, Jen. So there were so many characteristics that I could have shared, but I just really wanted to try to get to some of the essence, because these will be things that, I first suggested that we can go back and see what touchstone memory we might have or touchstone feeling we might have. But the point is that really those capacities are still in us. And even if they were frustrated, as they surely were in one way or another, as we were growing up, that we can absolutely still nurture those qualities. They are not lost to us. They might not be as easily present to us, but with some care, I see them as, to go back to Jesus's directive, we need to change and become like them. That we go back and we recapture those and we nurture those, because they really are about bringing up our very best selves. And so I'm going to focus this around what I opened up with, that the child comes into life seeking relationship and belonging, which is exactly pointing towards that unity consciousness that Dr. Joni spoke about yesterday. And it's just absolutely coming to the fore in our world right now. The aching, crying need for that. And the child is absolutely can and will be our leader in that. And so coupled with that is just to remember or notice that children operate holistically in the world. I love the 3 H's, the head, the hands, and the heart. And those 3 are connected, right? They are absolutely connected. I used to start the morning with the children, because in Montessori, you may know that the directive really is that the adult will not be called the teacher, because the true teacher is the inner teacher in each and every child. I get so distracted by the chat. It's terrible. I'm so used to being on Zoom calls with the chat and then peeking at it. That there's this inner teacher that each and every child has, and the adult is simply the guide, the one who holds space for it. And so to help the children each morning, we had a lot of things we did before this, but we would end with bringing our hands together to our heart and our mind, our head, and just to be asking to know what it is that we will be doing. and that the heart is really what calls to our hands and our mind. I didn't go into all that, but it's really a gorgeous triad. So just setting that context, the first relationship is to the self. And we think about a little child, a toddler, and they've got their hands because now they can walk. And so they've got language and they're steady on their feet. And so their hands are free and ready to go. And this is the time the child is ready they're seeking to do something with those hands, right? How do we recapture that desire and that connection? There's something in Montessori called practical life. And practical life is all the things that we have to do to keep ourselves reasonably well. And so things like preparing our food, cleaning up after that, keeping our home environment together, washing our clothes, all of these different, working our garden, whatever it is, all of these different activities will be termed practical life. And we have a lot of little activities for the children, scrubbing tables and polishing things and all, creating a little vase of flowers to beautify. All of these little activities are practical life activities in the Montessori room. And we can recognize that, well, this is work, right? This is our work. And we do call it work in Montessori. Maria said that she really felt that Homo sapiens was not the correct genus and species for the humans. She felt Homo laborans, because the child's propensity for work, and I don't know if anyone put playful in there, because absolutely children are playful, and that would be a quick characteristic that we would come to mind when we think of a young child, right? Which is true. But they also love to be engaged in meaningful activity that is contributing to what's going on around them in terms of care of the home and care of the self. They would love to begin to bathe themselves as soon as they can, and not to have someone taking that over for them. Wash their own hair. I've seen that kind of thing with children. I remember this kind of funny, but my youngest granddaughter, my daughter worked for a dental office, so they all had electric toothbrushes, and she was fascinated to see me come with my little manual toothbrush, and she wanted to see how was I doing that, and she wanted to be able to do that kind of work, rather than just have the electric toothbrush just kind of moved around in her mouth, which was just a gorgeous example of how pleasurable it is to the child to be able to work. And so that's my first suggestion to us, is to remember that kind of pleasure and to find that kind of pleasure. I haven't had a dishwasher for decades. I do all of my dishwashing by hand, and just the feel of the water. But even if you're rinsing for the dishwasher, you can engage in this, right? Just the pleasantness of it. And we can get really goal oriented, like want to hurry up and finish this so I can do the next thing, right? Or have it be over. And that whole being present to the moment, because I'll tell you that even they cautioned us in training that 3-year-old children, we can present something like table scrubbing to them, and the child will sit there and scrub the same part of the table over and over, like scrub it, wipe the soap off. They've got a little cake of soap and a brush. Wipe it off, and then they go right back and get more soap and scrub the very same part of the table. Like they're just so into the process, just enjoying and being absorbed in the process. And so just encouraging us to open ourselves to that. And it's very ritual, it can be very ritualistic. I know I have this whole thing when I do the dishes, I get all the silverware and I put it right in the front next to me, kind of thing. And and when I put the soap in, I have to turn the water up like that, like it's a routine, but that a routine is really a ritual when you think about it. The way that you fold the clothes, where you put them in the drawer, all of these kinds of things can be engaged as a kind of a ritual experience. And so it ultimately, this was another really gorgeous revelation to Maria Montessori, because the child just showed her that they wanted to be involved in these kinds of activities. And so she began. There were no mops, there were no implements, there wasn't even furniture the right size for children when she started. It's really Maria who started having furniture made the right size for them, etc. But that over time, and what she would do was she would instruct the women that were actually working with the children, and she was visiting more than one facility, and she was the one observing. And so they started telling her, they were writing to Maria and telling her that the children had become like angels. And so it's this beautiful passage in The Secret of Childhood where she says at first, she just wrote back and she chastised them for speaking of the children like they were angels, like you shouldn't be thinking of them as angelic. My goodness, what is that? Maria was very practical, and but she's a very spiritual person as well, but still. But she said when she visited, that's when she saw how the children became so absorbed in their activities that it was truly a kind of contemplative, monastic kind of environment. And she says she did. She said she put her hand over her heart after she's shared this, that they were saying the children were angelic, and she chastised them. And she said then when she visited, she saw them and experienced them like that. And she says she literally was stopped in the room and put her hand over her heart and asked herself the question, who are you? And she says she did ask herself, are these perhaps the children that Jesus was speaking of when he said we need to change and become like them? So that's the first thing. And just kind of following upon that is just to recognize that as so many things have become automated, not just toothbrushes, but, that we've lost even the way our clothes are made. When you think of all the gathering and the spinning of fiber and the weaving or knitting of fiber and all the work that went into that, and how time consuming it was, and yet how contemplative that must be to spin fiber, to weave fiber. I mean, I've done a lot of sewing in my life where I go and I buy the fabric and I cut it and I make it, and there's something in that. But as who was it that brought out just Summer Joy, I guess, that it was you that said, you saw me with Joe Brewer, and I'm just involved in the local sustainability bioregional work that I know you and John are involved with Joe and Penny as well. It really is dialing us back to localize things, and like hemp grows very well where I live, and to begin to see how can we start, if we need to make more clothing, which we've got a lot of clothing around, but just use that example, that we would gather it and we would adopt at least some of these handworks. So it's just an observation to recognize that this is a relatively new phenomenon that that we don't really have as much opportunity for contemplative experience like that. Okay, so I like to go to the next relationship, which is about the natural world. And I want to share screen one more time, and this time I like to share a video. So let me see if I can successfully do this. So this will be of the children from the school. So I worked with 2 to 6-year-olds for 40 years, and we had a school on 8 acres for 27 years. And we just kept it. It was wild when we got there. And so we just encouraged the wildness, and the children just had the best time. So this is a little 1-minute video of some 5 and 6-year-olds. And we had just come out of COVID. We'd been closed for 3 months. So they were always very enthusiastic. But this was one of the early videos that I was wanting to make some when we came back out. And I'm very careful not to show the children's faces, but you will hear their voices and pick up this enthusiasm. So let me see if I can. And they're 5 and 6-year-old, going on 6-year-old children mostly in this little video. So I'm going to go off screen and on mute to be able to do this.
Okay, we've got your screen, but it's blank so far. There's your desktop.
That's not open yet.
That's a bud.
That dark brown one.
Hey, there's another one.
Yeah, those have already
Dandelions!
popped open.
Dandelions!
Yep, those are about done, aren't they?
A seed flew over there. One of these seeds.
Did it?
Look, I got one. Whoa, this is so pretty. Hey, look, I got a seed. Oh, look. It started laying eggs. Oh, they have
Oh, is there a creature?
No, it looks like beautiful white ones.
Wow.
It's the beautiful
It
one.
does. The seeds are just popping out, aren't they?
And it has little brown stuff on there.
And the little brown stuff is probably the
Wow.
seed itself. Hang
Wow,
on just a
there's
minute. What's that?
bunch of those kind of
Oh,
white
yes,
flowers.
that's a fresh one. And it's got a little seed right
No,
there.
wait, I found a bug. Yep, bug on that leaf right there.
There
Oh,
very
yeah.
often are some
It's a
bugs
little
here.
bug.
Oh, that's a really cool one.
I know.
Yellow and black.
It looks like a butterfly.
And
That's
that
a
was
bug.
that's not open yet.
That's so precious. I hear their excitement. How are you doing on getting your camera back up? There you are. Oh, wait. There we are.
Could you hear it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, it was very quiet on my end, so I thought, ugh, I hope you can hear it. Wonderful. Yeah. So, I mean, it was milkweed seeds, and another video, the seeds are flying away and they're bye-bye, and they're gathering them and scattering them in the wind and all of that. So this is a segue into how we begin to connect to the natural world. And I'll fly through this because we're getting pretty close to the end of our time. But I was going to share an example from Teilhard de Chardin, who was referenced at the beginning. Oh, it's not pulling up on my screen like I wanted. But there's a story about Teilhard when he was in the last year of his life that he encountered Jean Houston. So Teilhard de Chardin was a Jesuit priest and paleontologist. So he really science and religion were just melded in him. He spent 30 years in China and was on the team that uncovered Peking Man. And so this is the caliber of person he was, but he was he was exiled, honestly, in New York the last years of his life because the Catholic Church would not allow him to publish. He's absolutely wondrous if you have not come across Teilhard, but and he absolutely was an inspiration to Jim Bowler and Ben Bowler afterwards. In fact, Ben tells a beautiful story about the founding of Unity Earth right after he had visited Teilhard's grave in New York. This is very much root of the Unity Earth is Teilhard's thought. But I love to share this account. Oh, actually, I remember where it was on here now, because he gives us such a gorgeous example of how we can continue to live out that wonderment of early childhood. So this is Jean Houston writing in one of her books. She says, and she had accidentally encountered Teilhard, and she did not know who he was. She was 14 years old. She says, the walks were magical. It was only years later, sorry, that she learned who he was. And so then she wrote all this. The walks were magical and full of delight. Not only did Mr. Teilhard, that's how she knew him, Mr. Teilhard, seemed to have absolutely no self-consciousness, but he was always being seized by wonder and astonishment over the simplest things. Who does that sound like? A child. He was constantly and literally falling into love. I remember one time when he suddenly fell on his knees, his long Gaelic nose raking the ground, and exclaimed to me, Jean, look at the caterpillar. Ah. I joined him on the ground to see what had evoked so profound a response that he was seized by the essence of a caterpillar. How beautiful it is, he remarked. This little green being with its wonderful, funny little feet, exquisite. Little furry body, little green feet on the road to metamorphosis. He then regarded me with equal delight. Jean, can you feel yourself to be a caterpillar? Oh, yes, I replied with the baleful knowing of a gangly, pimply-faced teenager. Then think of your own metamorphosis, he suggested. What will you be when you become a butterfly? Un papillon, eh? What is the butterfly of Jean?
Beautiful. One of my favorite from him is about we will once again, for the second time in humanity, discover fire. And that's a paraphrase. I know you know which one. It is, has been in our eighth fire continuum event for over 3 years now. So that one
Right,
quote. So,
right.
sister, we have a hard stop in 5 minutes. So you might
Yep,
think about closing
yep.
comments,
Yes,
please.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm moving that way. Thank you, though. So just really encouraging. I think Teilhard is absolutely inviting us. Language is really helpful. As young children, we're very absorbent on language and, learning the names, availing ourselves of a nature guide, or, there's iNaturalist now. You can just point it at something and identify something and then learn more about, once you've got a name, learn more about how it lives and just enter more deeply. But even beyond that, and that's absolutely something that appeals to our intelligence, right? But Yona French Hawk was a teacher that I really appreciated so much when I did the Deep Time Network course. And he's a full-blood Cherokee, was raised with his grandparents who were Cherokee, and he would talk about, we need to take the time to listen to the tree people. and absorb what the cloud nation wants to tell us. In fact, that's part of Jean's reflection on Teilhard. She said he was always noticing the clouds and what the clouds were saying. I see Hasina, and we had a little exchange about being cloud walkers recently, how much we appreciate clouds and just the simplest things. But Yana makes the point that we really have to take time. And, there's that whole thing of going on a walk with a child and taking time, letting the child be awestruck by a caterpillar. Awe is the first step, but then wonderment is when we take the time to really enter an experience. I always remember being at the Grand Canyon and how people would just stop at an overlook and jump out and take the selfies and never take any time to enter what that canyon had to say to them. So those two things, reconnecting to ourselves and reconnecting to the natural world, I believe those are the most essential segues into our relationships with one another. And we learn so much from the natural world about the mycelial network and how it's so sad to see a place where there are trees and there's just grass and there are no little understory plants allowed to grow. All the little shrubbery and small trees that would normally be gathered around that tree just feels so sad to me. And that's the kind of diversity that we live in as humans, as a human society, culture. So nature, that's just one little example, right? That can help us to just really enter into that kind of dynamic. So I'm going to put something out. We've got 99 days of peace. I see we're 1 minute from the top of the hour. So maybe we could start meeting every couple of weeks. I realized if we met on 7/7 at 7 o'clock Eastern was my idea, that we could start 7/7/7 and meet every other week. That we could continue these conversations.
That's a great idea. Let's do that in oneworld.earth. Again,
Okay.
www.oneworld.earth. We'll create that space for continued missions. Now, thank you everyone for joining us for Annie's presentation, and we'll be stopping now.
Thank you, Ingrid. Yes.
Gotcha.
Thank you, my
you.
beloved sister, for coming today. And what an amazing sister. I would love for Earth Mother to bring that online for you. So let's definitely get together afterwards and let's get that scheduled.
Okay.
And from here, I'm going to